Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our pre-recorded video on creative writing. So, of course, no, since I will have a meeting man today, that is why I decided to make a pre-recorded video na lang no for you to watch while I'm having my meeting. Okay, so I would like to share my screen with you. Okay, so last time, no, we have discussed the technical versus creative writing or imaginative writing, and then we weren't able to continue with our discussion no, because of the examination. So, of course, no, to continue, we are going to proceed with sensory details, which is imagery. Um, that was still part of module 1, no? So, nanata sa module 3 dun, medyo layo-layo na jud ta. But I will not be giving additional modules yet because, of course, I need to also discuss um, diction. No, oh, no, module 2 is ano di ay, figures of speech. No? So it's part of imagery. So appeal ra Japan siya dire. And right now, no, you are on your way to finishing module 3, which is diction and syntax, I think. So we will discuss it one next Friday. So I will not be giving any modules yet. No, I will just give you another module next week na lang for creative writing. Okay, so to start, no, sensory details is actually the writer's ability to create a gripping and memorable story. It has much to do with engaging our five senses. To make the story more engaging at the same time more interesting, we need to put also sensory or imagery, so that no the readers can also feel no may cathartic effect siya nga. You can also feel what the author is feeling because it has been described detail by detail, and they have also used the five senses no in their writing. So sensory details include sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. Writers employ the five senses to engage a reader's interest. If you want your writing to jump off the page, then bring your reader into the world you are creating. When describing a past event, try and remember what you saw, heard, touched, smelled, and tasted. Then incorporate that into your writing. Sensory details are used in any great story, literary or not. Think about your favorite movie or video game. What types of sounds and images are used? What do your favorite characters taste, smell, and touch? Without sensory details, stories would fail to come to life. When sensory details are used, your readers can personally experience whatever you're trying to describe, reminding them of their own experiences, giving your writing a universal feel. So you cannot make your readers feel or connect with you, class, if ikaw mismo, wala nimo sila gipabatsyag kung sa imong nabatsyagan as an author. So through your words, through using sensory and imagery, no, they can easily connect with you because pag ingon nimo nga kanang you felt a sharp pain. So ila jud nang i-imagine pod nga sila pod ga feel pod sila og sharp pain pod. No, so mao na siya, no? Or for example, you have gi-describe nimo ang sceneries, no, pagsaka nimo sa mountain or sa peak, no, nya mo gi-describe ang scenery. So once mo siyang i-describe vividly na sila pod mag-imagine po sa as if naapod sila dira sa imuhang story, no, as if pod galantaw pod sila sa katong imuhang nakita nga scenery. So a universal quality is conveyed when the writer is able to personally connect with the readers. Another note about sensory details is there is no one sense that's more important than another. It all depends on the scene you're trying to create. If you want to incorporate all five senses, pwede kayo. If you want to incorporate only the sight and the smell, pwede po siya. Pero wala jud senses no wala five senses nga out of the five senses wala jud usa or duha dira ang pinaka-importante. All of them are really important, pero magdepende ra siya on the type of literature that you are going to write. So however, imagery, the sight sense, is a common feature in vivid writing. I did mention this on the first video nga, when it comes ganito writing imagery, or let's say writing literature, no, using imagery and sensory, ang pinaka-common jud is ang sight, no? Ila yung i-describe unsa ilahang nakita, and then followed by smell and touch, no? Later na ang taste. Usually when they feel a sharp pain man mawara man na dira ang touch na dayon, but usually no ang ila yung makita ang ilang i-describe. Okay, so let's look at sensory details in action. For those who have seen the previous video, so gibalik ra nako siya, no, but just to recap, no, because a week interval, or let's say nagkahayatos ta for a week, no? So wala lang kita nagkita. So at least i-refresh siya nako to siya. So let's compare the following two passages describing a trip to the grocery store. So here's a passage nga wala gagamit og sensory details. I went to the store and bought some flowers. Then I headed to the meat department. Later I realized I forgot to buy bread. Now, do you think relate ka sa story, or does it connect with you? So no, there is nothing to bring you into the writer's world. So how about this one, no? Nga i-add na to ang sensory details. So upon entering the grocery store, I headed directly for the flower department, where I spotted yellow tulips. As I tenderly rested the tulips in my rusty shopping cart, I caught a whiff of minty dried eucalyptus, so I added the fragrant forest green bouquet of eucalyptus to my cart. While heading for the meat department, I smelled the stench of seafood, which made my appetite disappear. So ikaw, no? Sa siya mag-imagine, gipa-imagine niya sa imuha nga, nakasmell siya og stench of seafood. So ikaw, imagine pa mo, imagine pa nimo nga, oo, mo ni siya ang smell sa seafood ay, or for example, no, ihang describe ang scent sa minty dried eucalyptus. So you also try to imagine, no, what's the scent of a minty dried eucalyptus. So that is how imagery, no, makes the literature, let's say the passage or a story more interesting. So writing with the senses is an important part of writing well. Adjectives bring writing to life and pull the reader into the text and help activate his or her imagination. Sensory details help the reader feel like he or she was there and create a more intimate connection to the narrator or writer and a greater understanding of the text. Adjectives help set the mood and tone in the text and help establish a strong voice. So again, no, if we will try to recall, one passage did not use imagery and sensory, while the second one used imagery and sensory. Although medyo going around the bush medyo ta ato nga passage, no, ang second passage, pero mas interesting siya basahon, and then you can easily connect because very vivid kaayo siya mo describe sa iyang surroundings, no, and you can also relate because once gi-describe niya vividly, ikaw pa din pong i-imagine nga as if, no, you were also there in the story. Let's now proceed to language use in creative writing. So, of course, no, imagery is widely used by poets, novelists, and other writers to create images in the minds of the reader. Usually, when you love to write, no, endless, no, and very limitless kay kamo gamit og imagery. From the previous stories naman imuhang gibasa, no, sa module, daghan kaayo dito mga examples wherein heavy kaayo mo gamit si author og imagery and sensory, no, sa iyahang mga stories. And then, no, when you read, you're quite entertained because imo pong i-imagine ang unsayang gi-describe. So imagery includes figurative and metaphorical language to help the readers experience through their senses. If you could recall module 2, wherein there are also figures of speech and it helps make the story more interesting to the readers. So imagery and figures of speech, no, same ra na sila class. No? So they give life, no, to words, no, at the same time to the story. Let's try to explore some of the examples of imagery. So the first example is imagery using visuals, no, or the eyes. Ang first na to nga out of the 5 senses. So the night was black as ever, but bright stars lit up the sky in beautiful and varied constellations, which were sprinkled across the astronomical landscape. So as you can see, no, very in-depth kaayo si author pag gamit og mga imagery sa iyahang passage. For example, the color black, no, black as ever. Shape, no, varied constellations, and pattern, so sprinkled. So daghan kay siya gigamit nga mga imagery. So when sprinkled, mo imagine nagkakatag siya sa sky, no? Varied constellations with different shapes, no? Different sizes, mo pong gi-imagine. And then black as ever. So imagine black sky, then sprinkled with constellations. So, muna ang imagery using visuals. Let's now proceed to imagery using words. So, or using sounds, using sounds, no? So, kani siya is more on, say mo na pong sense of hearing. So, silence was broken by the peal of piano keys as Shannon began practicing her concerto. So ang auditory imagery is ang silence that was broken by the piano keys. So you may imagine nga gaano siya, ga-practice siya, og play sa piano niya. Hilom kaayo ang room, yung mukalit rag break ang silence because nag-play siya sa piano. So muna ang auditory imagery. Okay. Next, imagery using scent. So she smelled the scent of sweet hibiscus wafting through the air. Its tropical smell, a reminder that was on a vacation in a beautiful place. Sorry ka na matangtay to sa high. So let me just reread it again. So she smelled the scent of sweet hibiscus wafting through the air. Its tropical smell, a reminder that she was on vacation in a beautiful place. So unsa man to ang kuan ana, unsa man ang imagery ana. So of course no, the scent of hibiscus, which is kuan siya no kanang relaxing kay pag simot niya sa hibiscus class nga very sweet kay siya mar siya kanang nasa vacation daw kuno in a beautiful place. So unsa may ma-experience nimo kung naa ka sa usa ka vacation in a beautiful place? Oh, di ba? So relax kay ka, warm and very welcoming ang imuhang ma-feel. So mo na siya. That is imagery using scent. Let's now proceed to the fourth imagery or fourth kanang sense, no, out of the five senses. We have imagery using taste. So the candy melted in her mouth and swirls of bittersweet chocolate and slightly sweet but salty caramel blended together on her tongue. So unsa man ang imagery gigamit niya sa taste, no? Of course ang bittersweet, may pagkapait-pait nga tamis and slightly nga pagka-sweet pero medyo parat-parat nga caramel no nga ga-blend sa iyahang tongue. So gi-describe jud siya sa author in depth no kaayo nga pagka-describe ang flavor sa candy, no? And then iya pong gi-describe nga nag-melt kuno sa iyang mouth, no? So ikaw po imo pong i-imagine nga may pagka bittersweet nga salty, no, sa iyang ana. So the reader, which is ang katong gabasa ana nga text, will experience the deliciousness directly, no? So ibigay magbasa ka nga kanang Nati one time no when I was reading one of Dan Brown's novels, which is Deception Point, there was one passage there nga wherein na disgrasya siya niya. Maka-taste ko na siya kanang sour nga rust nga kanang sa back sa iyang throat daw ko no, which is na swallow ko na niya yung kagalingon nga dugo no. So ikaw no, ma-imagine po na ko nito nga unsa ang taste sa rusty nga dugo no nga naa sa back of his throat daw no, nga nag-gurgle niya kay he was in an accident. So muna siya na very vivid kaayo si Dan Brown mo kuan ya. That is what I like no when it's different ako when I read Dan Brown and Paul Coelho's books. Paul Coelho is very light ra kayo iyang mga novels class no kanang very inspiring kaayo siya. But it's more on vivid nga sceneries hilig si Paul Coelho no Paulo Coelho. One of he wrote no the infamous infamous yun. One of the famous works niya is ang The Alchemist no ginahan kay koan na mo basa pod ang sa The Alchemist. Ang kadan Brown daghan no we have um Da Vinci Code, we have Deception Point, no, we also have Inferno. Although no, it's quite controversial, but what I like about Dan Brown is he is also mixing fact and fiction. No, at the same time, very vivid siya, but he is not only focused on the scenery itself. No, he is focused on what is actually happening in the eyes of the protagonist. At the same time, kanang within one day ra jud na iyang setting pero baga jud kaayo iyahang libro class no nya ma-enjoy ko mabasa kay grabe kay even ka nang mag-solve og puzzles abi si Robert Langdon which is the protagonist of that story no sa kanang um sa Inferno sa usually magtumas mga museums no mga kaslag mga artifacts na manay mga sa Deception Point ug other mga books nga gisulat ni Dan Brown lain man na og protagonist pero usually ga follow ko katong ka Robert Langdon nga story no nya kuan siya class even ang puzzles no kanang although walay picture present pero ma-imagine ako ang puzzle nga ni adto sila to sa Saka Museum in Italy nga wherein naglantaw sila sa ceiling nya naa ditoy kanang i-decipher nila ang usa ka code or katong death mask ni Koan um ni Dante no to ni agto sila dito sa sa graveyard wherein asa gilubong si Dante kato nagsulat sa Divine Comedy and one of the kuan man ang unsa sa mga ilang gigukod nga antagonist kay dito nagibutang siya mga clues. Ikuha nila ang death mask ni Dante Alighieri, which is the one who wrote the Divine Comedy. No, if you can still remember your literature, nya na dito kanang ko ano jud niya gi-describe jud niya ang puzzle itself niya. Ako gi-imagine po nako niya pag Google nako parehas jud kaayo sa akong gi-imagine ang katong maze nga naa or katong puzzle nga naa sa death mask ni Dante Alighieri. So, I did mention death mask. No, what is a death mask? Sidetrack lang ko kadit ha. A death mask is actually kanang when people die no in Florence or sa Italy kay kanang ilang i-mold so plaster ang last face sa namatay no before siya mamatay mag ilang i-mask daan nga mara siya kanang kuan memorabilia mara siya kanang murag kuan ra niya no murag in memory na lang sa katong namatay ba nga mo niyang last face niya before siya namatay para ma-preserve pa no kayo ang uban malimot man sila sa itsura silang loved one once nga ilubong na so mo na kay Dante Alighieri he was really famous man although he was exiled man no kay tungod one of his works was kanang dili man jud ko ano kanang questionable man jud kay to ang Divine Comedy at that time no when he made it pero of course when he died no gibalik man siya na revoke man to ang iyahang kuan ang iyahang pagka-exile ato sa Florence. So that is why no nga na siya death mass, na siya graveyard and then that's all. So nasaag na ta sa kuan no. So that is why no I kanang gibuhat ni Dan Brown as an author still kuan siya po sa akong auto class kay wala siya po siya nawala masking mga few months na ko nagbasa ato no niya wala siya po siya nawala sa akong utok because of how vivid he is no in describing unsa ang kaagi sa protagonist in the story so nindot kay siya no that is what makes a story very interesting. Okay, next is ang fifth no is ang imagery using touch. So after the long run, he collapsed in the grass with tired and burning muscles. The grass tickled his skin and sweat cooled on his brow. So, unsa man imong makuha, no? Vivid kaayo pud pagka-explain wherein tired and burning muscles so gipamaulan no ikaw may mo siya imagine nga pamaulan pud ka niya. The grass tickled his skin so paghigda niya medyo gilok and no maka-feel siya nga ang sweat ning dagan si ang kilay. So, muna no kana nga mga imagery gigamit para i-explain no unsay na feel sa katong lalaki after the long run or after nagdagan siya pila ka kilometro or unsa ba na siya. Okay, so this is an infographic on the types of imagery. As you can see, nakita naman dito na no. So in the eyes, we have our visuals, describes what we see. So we can make use of words nga mugamit kitag visual imagery class when we write. So you can make use of colors, shapes, patterns, and sizes. In olfactory, which is what describes no sa imuhang smell, sa imong sense of smell. So you can describe nice fragrances and bad odors. Next is I don't know how to pronounce gustatory or gustatory. So gustatory describes what we taste. So you can describe the different kinds of taste class. No, lima raman siya na sila kabuok. You have the sour, sweet, acidic, bitter, and salty. So describe po na nimo. Tactile describes what we touch or feel. So for example, like movement, no, texture, like rough ba ang surface, no, smooth, slippery. Then you also have temperature. So is it kanang hot na ba siya or lukewarm, no? Or cold as ice. So mga ana. Auditory is what we hear. So kanang like music, no? Pwede mo i-describe ang music na imong nadunggan or noise, no? Like nag-clatter or nag-pitter-patter on the rain, nag-pitter-patter on the floor, ang mga ana. Silence, no? Kanang mga deafening silence. So, kana bahala describe ana, no? Daghan kaayo. So, let's now proceed with visual imagery. So visual imagery describes what we see, such as comic book images, paintings, or images directly experienced through the narrator's eyes. Visual imagery may include color, such as burnt red, bright orange, dull yellow, verdant green, and robin's egg blue. So pwede ka kabutang specific nga color, no? Like for example, kanang ang room nga color kay salmon. Kay medyo may pagkasamon nga naka-remind siya ang color sa room daw kuno mura kuno siya a piece of salmon meat o kay pares-parehas og color. So mga ana um ang ang challenging lang nga part no, especially kato kung gihatag ninyo at I think atong module 1 or module 2 nga ipasulat ta mo og kanang story no nga imagine yourself in the shoes of a ano sa tawag ni ay a person with disability. So kamo na pili no kung blind or na ba siya sa wheelchair or di ba siya kadungog or di ba siya ka-speak, then nang what do you think your life kanang or your daily activities ba no kung naa kay mga anak nga disabilities. So mo na siya no, siguro mag-lack ka sa visual imagery but mahaitan ka on other imagery such as unsa man mahaitan ang olfactory no or ang auditory nimo no, pwede man no. So even though kasabit na ang uban no sa modules, i-recall lang to ninyo nga ubitaw no, what if no kanang in a day kanang blind abi ko, what will my daily activities be like? So although I maglack man ko sa visual imagery sa ako ang story, pero pwede man ako siya i-heighten in other imagery such as auditory, olfactory no, or sa pag-touch no. You can also describe no visual imagery using shapes such as kanang square, circular, tubular, no kanang tube, and then rectangular and conical. So ikaw na bahala no kung nakay gusto i-describe no and you're using visuals, pwede kaayo no through shapes. Sizes such as minuscule, tiny, small, medium size, large, and gigantic. So patterns such as polka dotted, striped, zigzag, jagged, and straight. So let's now proceed to auditory imagery. So gagamit na siya no, ga-describe siya based on what we hear, no, from music, noise, or to pure and deafening silence. So auditory imagery may include enjoyable sounds such as beautiful music, bird song, and the voices of a chorus. Noises such as the bang of a gun, the sound of a broom moving across the floor, and the sound of broken glass shattering on the hard floor. So next is the lack of noise. So i-describe nimo ang silence. So like eerie nga silence, kaning murag kanang creepy kayo siya nga kanang dili unsettling kaayo masking imingaw kayo pero murag unsettling kayo siya on your part, or lahi po ng peaceful calm, meaning hilom siya no, everything is calm pero you are at peace. So lahi po na siya no. Kung siguro if you're going to write a thriller no or a horror story, then of course you're going to use eerie silence no to describe the lack of noise. But if you're going to describe a very happy memory, no, pwede ta sa peaceful calm. Okay, happy kay kanya, i-silence imong ibutang, no, musimang ra siya sa imong theme, no. Theme is also important. So, mo na siya, no, dapat ang muhang choice of words pod mo match pod sa imong theme. Okay? Next, let's proceed to olfactory imagery. Olfactory imagery describes what we smell. Olfactory imagery may include fragrances such as perfumes, enticing food and drink. Kulang, sumptuous siya lang taon, yung humot palandaan pang ulam na, mga yung anak nga kuad nga description, or blooming flowers. Pero sa katong di ba katong gibasa nga passage kanya agto siya sa grocery store, then yung gi-describe ang scent sa mint, no, ang scent sa tulips, ang odor pod sa kuan sa seafood. So may ana olfactory imagery. So, pwede man po no odor such as rotting trash, no, or body odor, no, or stinky wet dog, mga ing ana. I don't know lang if appeal po ng kanang murag kanang ang smell sa sa earth no kanang bag-o pa mag-ulan na uban anang kanang ginahan sa smell no sa sa earth mag earthy smell siya nga after mag-rain mao man na ang kuan nga smell, pero kuan ba na siya no bacteria ba na siya daw kuno nga mo sani mo evaporate after the rain daw. I read it somewhere na kalimot lang ko, pero kana ko nung smell nga imong masimhutan nga sa earth nga after mag-ulan nga lay uban ginahan kayo ako di ko ginahan sa baho jud sa earth after the rain, earth after the rain bacteria daw kuno na ako lang i-kuandaan i-google lang ako later on. Char. Next, gustatory imagery. So gustatory imagery describes what we taste, no? So gabi siya on Sense of taste. No, you can describe sweetness such as candies, cookies, desserts. Ipo na mo describe kag sweetness sa kuan, bitter gourd niya. Bitter gani ang gourd. No, so dapat kuan po, no? Connect po sa pagkaon po. So, sourness, bitterness, and tartness such as lemons and limes. Saltiness such as pretzels, french fries, and pepperonis. Spiciness such as salsas and curries or kanang mga peppers, no? And savoriness such as steak dinner or thick soup. So, man ang savoriness, kanang magnanam, kanang yung lami siya, o delicious siya. So, of course, no, lami man siya ng steak or thick soup. No? Not unless if it's a yucky soup, nga thick soup, no? Pero, so man na siya. Okay, tactile imagery. So, mo ni siya ang what we touch, no? What we feel. So, pwede ka ka-describe of temperature or humidity, no? Humidity or bitter cold, mildness, and stifling heat. You have textures such as rough, ragged, seamless, and smooth. Touch such as hand holding, sana all, hand holding. Once in the grass or the feeling of starch fabric on one's skin. Oh, person nang landlock na noon. Nag, nag, naglock ang inyong hands with each other, no? Ma-feel dyan mo nga ning fit ang yung mga ano, describe na ninyo, Gemma, no? So, mga ing ana, movements such as burning muscles, no? From exertion, kanang ka-exercise ka, nya, sa kanang pamuulan ka, no? Mag-burn imong muscles, or swimming in cold water, or kicking a soccer ball. So, may na, ano, movement, or touch texture. No? So, one na siya class ang tactile imagery. Okay, the importance of using imagery. So again, I did already discuss noon sa importance, but let me just go through it again. No, so because we experience life through our senses, a strong composition should appeal to them through the use of imagery. Descriptive imagery launches the reader into the experience of a warm spring day, a scorching hot summer, a crisp fall, or a harsh winter. So again, no, if you're using imagery class, dali na jud kaayo ka mo connect with your readers because you're letting them feel, no, what um the author is feeling. Now, at the same time, if you're going to picture out or let's say describe a scenery, nga ginahan po nimo nga ma-describe po nila, then you will have to use imagery as well. No, kay for example, no, agto ka sa Saka Mountain, and then you would like to write a blog about kanang the scenery, or let's say ang katong mo nakita no pagsaka nimo sa mountain. Then unsaon nimo pag-entice sa imong readers or pag-encourage sa ilaha nga moadto dito kay nindot kay mo nakita. Then of course you're going to use imagery. You're going to describe what you have seen, no, para sila po dila po i-imagine nga siguro nindot kay dito no kay based on his blog, no, nga ihamang describe detail by detail. So very vivid kaayo ang pag-describe sa iyahang nakita dito. So it allows the readers to directly sympathize with the characters and narrators as they imagine having the same sense experiences. So imagery commonly helps build compelling poetry, convincing narratives, vivid plays, well-designed film sets, and descriptive songs. Even gani ang mga artista class, no, when mubasa na silang script, no, very heavy kaayo ang use of imagery pod. So at least, no, well, gabasa sa script ka picture out na dayon silang character nga going through these experiences nga ay mo ni siya akong character, and then mo ni na disgrasya siya, or mo ni experience, no, nga dako kayo siya og adventure na kay tungod pagbasa la pa na niya sa script, no, wala pa lang siya sa set, na describe na tanan sa script through the use of imagery. So am I understood? I know you can't reply to me in real time because this is a pre-recorded video, but I hope nga naamoy na sabtan sa ako. Okay, imagery in literature. Imagery is found throughout literature in poems, plays, stories, novels, and other creative compositions. So here are a few examples of imagery in literature. I'm going to read you one excerpt, no, describing a fish. So just imagine lang ha, I'm describing a fish. His brown skin hung in strips, like ancient wallpaper, and its pattern of darker brown was like wallpaper. Shapes like full-blown roses, stained and lost through age. So, gamit siya og ano? Unsa man yang gigamit class? So, nagamit siya og unsa man? No? Gamit siya og visuals, no, nga pag-describe sa skin, no, sa fish, no? At the same time, siya mga patterns, no? Ang shapes. So, heavy on visuals ni ang iyang pag-describe. Okay, so this excerpt is from Elizabeth Bishop's poem The Fish is brimming with visual imagery. It beautifies and complicates the image of a fish that has been caught. So see, no, ga-describe na siya isda class pero gemma kaayo siya. Na siya pina brown skin hung in strips. Na pa siya pina kuan shaped like full-blown roses, stained and lost through age. No, gemma kaya isda na day yang i-describe. Diba? So ikaw ma-curious kung sa man iyang gi-describe no. Kuan man jud kaayo no kanang very intriguing. Yeah, isda di ay no. So you can imagine the fish with tattered brown skin like ancient wallpaper, covered in barnacles, lime deposits, and sea lice. So, pag-describe